Thursday Threatpoint, Dead Bros Society. They're only radical when it's risk free. They didn't want me to get better, they wanted me to get bitter so we could keep drinking over it. And I learned that the hard way. When all this custody shit started, I thought the men closest to me would lean in. The ones who I helped through their own problems, eaten at my table, known my son, split beers with me during the worst times. I didn't expect them to file motions or jump into court for me. A phone call or a text that wasn't a meme dump would have been good. Instead, I got silence, platitudes, and one guy who sent me his affiliate link for a coaching group promising emotional containment. And that's when I realized I wasn't being abandoned because I lost my way. It was because I stopped being a character they recognized. The father in pain, that's fairly digestible. But what about the man in court? Entertaining for sure, but the one who shuts up, built a system, and stopped running all decisions by them and asking for feedback, that guy makes them nervous. Frame doesn't just cost you comfort, it also costs you company. I didn't lose friends. What I saw was their mask slipping. Frame is expensive. If no one's flinching, then you're probably still performing. When you stop asking for applause and start issuing subpoenas, the crowd sure thins out fast. We'd known each other since grade 6, Derek, Ryan, and Evan. Guys I'd crashed weddings with, eaten Christmas dinners, leaned on when shit got dark. I helped some of them through their divorces. Then one day I posted a meme that didn't match the groupthink, and Derek spiraled into a wall of moralism. Evan booted me from the chat we've had for close to a decade without a word. Ryan sent a message a week later that read like a corporate DEI memo. It wasn't politics or burnout. It was purely identity collapse. They didn't spurg out over the meme. It was because I stopped playing the part. They loved the broken, self-deprecating version of me, because broken doesn't threaten the script. But once I had my shit together, logs, transcripts, strategy, they didn't know who I was anymore. The brotherhood, it turns out, was just shared dysfunction. They all stand on the desk until the principal walks in. That's how the RP brotherhood really works. Dead Bros Society isn't full of cowards, it's full of tourists. Performative radicals who vanish the moment shit gets real. They loved your rebellion when it was framed as poetic, but once the metaphors became filings, custody logs, and submission deadlines, they evaporated. It's easy to seize the day when seizing it doesn't come with financial discovery, a GAL report, or the looming risk of a supervised access. But when the day shows up in a courtroom instead of a group chat, poof. Your crisis was only valuable to them when it was emotional, when it made them feel noble. But once it got ugly, real, clinical, bureaucratic, they went back to jerking off about which billionaire grifter cares more about freedom while I was fighting for access to my kid. You're not being abandoned, you're just done performing. It's easy to mistake male presence for support when everything's still hypothetical. When I first started seeing the cracks in my marriage, I had my bros lining up to listen. They loved that version of me. Raw, pissed off, confused, and I played that part well. I was vulnerable but masculine, furious but funny, and above all, still relatable to them. Then I went dark for a while. I didn't disappear, but I stopped narrating, started tracking handoffs, time-stamping messages, writing for the judge instead of the group chat. That's when they pulled the plug and replaced brotherhood with what would be more akin to fortune cookie wisdom instead. One of them told me, "Bro, you can't live in the fight mode forever." Another said I should try letting go of outcome attachment. Translation? Your clarity is making me uncomfortable. Brotherhood is often just shared delusion. We're all broken in some way, but at least we're broken together. The second you step out of that, you're the threat. Not because you're better, because you're proof they could have done it differently. The risk-free radical. They weren't rebels, they were tried and true consumers. all in on capitalism, clout, and clever takes about global trade, until real life showed up for me with a court date. Suddenly, none of them had anything to say when my parenting time got slashed. All that big talk about freedom and systems turned into silence, deflection, or spiritual cope. Because their version of resistance was risk free, abstract, intellectual, always someone else's problem. They didn't want a revolution, they wanted comfort with an edge. But red pill fatherhood isn't abstract, it's clerical, procedural, 100 tiny battles before a judge even learns your name. And that kind of radical doesn't get applause or sell merch, it just works. That's why most men avoid it. They weren't in it to win, just to watch. They don't want transformation, they want mutual reassurance. And when your process stops being fun to spectate, they go find someone else's crash to rubberneck. They need another man's failure to stay comfortable in their own stasis. The second you reach out for the top of the bucket, they claw. Not because you're wrong, because your escape confirms they never tried. Brotherhood isn't supposed to remind them they wasted a decade. And when it does, you're now the problem. Not the system, not her, you. Brotherhood was a covert contract. I'll listen to your pain if it mirrors mine. But if you grow past it, especially without my help, you're violating the terms. That's the part most men can't admit. Your independence breaks the contract. You grew without them, and that was the betrayal. You stopped needing them, and they felt cheated. I didn't get that at first. I thought silence was maturity, strategy, focus. One of them said, "You've changed, man. You used to be more open." Another said I wasn't being transparent anymore, and he was concerned. But the truth is, I stopped running my mission through the social filter. The Brotherhood wanted updates, and Frame demanded silence. And once those conflicted, I picked the one that had to actually be in court. They'll cheer the war, but not the win. No one warns you about the silence after you pull it off. I got parenting time restored, shut down false claims, tanked another one of her legal bluffs that made her narrative implode. I walked out with something better than applause, momentum. But my bros got weird. One said I got lucky, another pivoted back to his ex, the third ghosted me entirely, and that's when I knew. Performance only worked when I was still broken and humble enough to be one of the guys. The win made them squirm because it proved they could have done it too. Frame isn't just composure, it's competence, and nothing kills performative support faster. There's no desk to stand on in court. You don't get to grandstand in family court or write poetry in the margins of your parenting schedule. You don't get to scream, "Oh, Captain, my Captain," while she rewrites the narrative and files it with your last name. That kind of masculinity doesn't survive discovery. Real Frame does, and real Frame can be lonely. Because when you stop romanticizing your pain and start organizing your outcomes, you kill the entire energy that most male groups run on. Shared struggle, emotional delay, perpetual potential. We replace it with calendars, receipts, witness notes, and time-stamped facts. And then suddenly, you're not the hero of a coming-of-age story. You're a liability to their excuses. You're the grown man who stopped reading Whitman and started reading the Family Law Act, and that scares the hell out of them. Stop looking for support and start looking for assets. One guy I knew, divorced over a decade, sends me a Dropbox folder with redacted case law, annotated orders, and 3 message templates he used to kill conflict before it started. We hadn't talked in over 6 months, and the message came with no preamble. No, "Hey man, just want to check in and see how things were going." Just tools. That's not brotherhood. That's operational respect. And to be honest, I'll take that over 10 self-flagellating group chats any day. And for the rest of them, they're just dead. Emotional weight you carry out of guilt. So drop them. Let them go back to arguing about GDP and free speech rights over Discord. They were never coming to court with you anyway. The war is personal, the win is private. You will go through most of this alone. You'll get ghosted when the situation gets too real and be judged for being too quiet, too calculated, and too cold. And you'll be fine. Because the point was never applause, it was outcome. I don't care who stood on a desk for me. I care who knows the difference between emotional validation and admissible leverage. That's the brotherhood no one talks about. The one built on precision, not performance. And it starts when you accept that dead bros society was never meant to survive contact with the real world. It was a coming of age fantasy, but some of us had to grow up before the credits rolled. Forget followers, build folders. Let them call you cold and say you changed. You're not here to be remembered. You're here to win custody and walk away from the desk without apology. Let them reenact the movie while you write the transcript, as the court doesn't care how inspired you made them feel. It cares about outcomes. They weren't dead because they left. They were dead because they stopped being useful. Dead Bro Society was never built for outcomes. It was built to feel noble in the absence of them. And I'm not here to be noble. I'm here to win.